I awoke in my room in Woonsocket to a soft rain. Outside, a slow beeping. I looked out to see there was some construction happening on the road below. There was no Bunny. There was no Agatha. I tried to marvel at my painting, but the light made it look suddenly dull. My heart fluttered as I lay back down and stared at the ceiling. Perhaps I would paint it if I had a ladder or a crow to send up there with a paintbrush. Everything that had happened felt like it wasn't real. Still, that wasn't an altogether unpleasant feeling. I thirsted for some normalcy, just a little bit, a few days. I searched for the voices, but they weren't there. Were they mad at me? Harry had given me a fair amount of cash like a worried, doting, overindulgent parent. I left my bunny backpack under a blanket and in a dark corner and tried not to worry about it. It felt imprudent to walk around with so much money, even in Woonsocket, which wasn't very dangerous after all, it would seem. I went to the Dunkin' and had a cup of coffee and a couple plain donuts. I apologized for bringing in the wetness from outside, but the person didn't seem to care. I hadn't even thought about not having an umbrella as I had walked outside. I should have gone to the pawn shop and seen if the red umbrella was still there, to inspect it, to take it for Simon, Harry, I don't know. Is that what I should do? Something told me it would not be there. Still, at some point, I should check. I walked to the river. I looked at the color of water. I felt dizzy. I went back to my apartment. I lay back. I felt like drawing, so I found a spare patch of wall that was illuminated and started to sketch a face, Agatha's face. And then I was crying very hard. And then the crying stopped and I went to sleep. Very unusual for me. When I awoke, I was very hungry, and so I went to a Laotian restaurant down the street and ordered some sticky rice with tofu to go. It was dusk, and I went down to the river to eat it very satisfactorily. Why, I felt so happy in that moment. The food was so good. It tasted like someone loving made it. I thought of the little vampires in the tomb, and I suddenly was very hopeful, and this thought was quite confusing. And the voices almost started to speak, but then they crept away. Then I was crying again, but only for a little while. It went like this for several days. Or was it a week? This was grief. Only a grief I'd not experienced quite like before. A grief that was a strange cousin to joy. Mysterious and connected to an almighty force. I thought I saw the Ouroboros, the serpent, or was it the dragon this time, in the corner of my eye. I could not properly draw, I could not paint. Only the half-sketched face of Agatha on the wall taunted or beckoned me. I remembered my gallery and felt panicked that it would be gone when I returned. Yes, I should go back to Providence soon. Agatha. Agatha was gone, but not dead. And why was I not concerned? Perhaps was I grateful? We all were. How terrified we all were, I think. I knew that I needed to get her back, but I also was surrendering to my inability to do so with my conscious mind. It would have to be something similar, something to do with magic, and so with art, and the thought made my mind spin. As much as it consoled me, I was in a new power, and that power was shrouded with grief. The strangeness of grief. I hadn't considered Gree. I had killed Gree, surely I had.
You should see to your sister.
I remembered he said to me once.
She does not accept affection easily, but she speaks of you to me often. Worries about you often. Give her a few words. It will last her like a full meal.
Were those the words of someone who didn't care? What if? What if it had been Dracunin? What if Gree had been framed? No, that made no sense. I simply was struggling with what I'd done. I could not quite believe how I'd thrust the blade into his chest. I did not recognize myself, recognize the burst of anger and determination as I did so. My bullet wound throbbed, but it was not much. I remembered to change my bandage. Harry had provided me with what I needed and more. Good grief. Sometimes it felt like it could be good when I sat still, when the pain seemed to knock away the unnecessary thoughts, grounding me, but maybe it was just a familiar prison, like depression. Was I afraid I'd never see Agatha or Bunny again? Perhaps. But I had grown so much these past few times that I was just trying to be grateful that she had re-entered our lives. Grateful, too, she had kept herself to be known by me and not Harry. Was she afraid of something, or did she want to give me what I want? Her bunny self uninterrupted. What would Harry have done had he known? Yearned for her to return to her human form, I think, but perhaps she just did not want to, like Balkis. Was that it? I should have asked, but only Harry could have heard the answer. Funnily, I hadn't thought of Lucy these past few days. A part of me felt detached from the feelings I had been feeling for her. I barely remembered how we said goodbye. She had been worried about Dracunin, I think. I can't recall closely how it went since I was in a bit of pain then. What is love? But a flood of chemicals to confuse the brain, and so, what is grief? Also a flood of chemicals, so what? What is grief to the immortal soul? That night I had a dream. I was back in my monastery painting the bunny. The one that brought Agatha back. I was small, like a child. I thought I was interrupted by Agatha who had returned. I was waiting for her to say positive things about my art, but it was not her. It was a little boy. His eyes were like a storm, like lightning. They were white.
Hello, Neto. Hello, Neto. Hello,
Hello,
Neto.
I
Hello,
said.
Neto. Hello, Neto. Hello, Neto. Hello, Neto. Hello, Neto.
Hello, why are you repeating my name like that? Stop it, tell me your name. But he would not tell me his name. And as I looked into his eyes, the wind and the storm ripped the roof off of my monastery, and the rain came down and washed the paint off the tiles, wiping away the bunny as I scrambled frantically, trying to trace its image back on, but to no avail. She was gone, washed away by the tears of the vast universe above. The boy pointed up there above me. I saw the dragon circling, about to swoop down. That is when I knew my grief needed to become something more.